All right, so today is really exciting because not only do I get to go to the Knapp Center and cover both the Drake women and the men tonight, as there's doubleheader basketball in the Knapp Center. 5:30, the Drake women tip off against North Dakota. 7:30, the Drake men against St. Ambrose. So really excited to do that, to just get out of the house and go cover live games again, which I'm very fortunate and lucky to do. But today, this morning, I was able to actually sit down with head coach Allison Pohlman and do a long form interview with her, talk about everything from holiday movies to what Drake needs to do to get out of this kind of rut where they have lost 5 games in their last 6, and what they need to do to get back on track right before Valley Play starts up here very soon. And just very thankful to Coach Pullman for doing this for me, because she's always been so willing to, jump in and have an interview, have a talk with me when I was a student, when I worked at iHeart, and now. So very thankful for what she's done. So talk with Allison Pullman here very shortly, and then give a few thoughts on the Drake men's game here ahead of tonight. I also want to give a few thoughts on the in-state rivalry, because we saw a great game last night in Carver where the Hawkeyes upset number 18 Iowa State in the women's basketball version of the Cy-Hawk rivalry. Now the men get their opportunity to showcase it tonight, where the Iowa State men, who have been incredible to this point in the year, they're ranked 3rd in the country right now, going up against a Hawkeye team that has shown flashes of what they could be able to do this season. So very excited to talk about that one as well. But without further ado, Allison Pohlman of the Drake women's basketball team, the head coach, joining us now, and I'm very excited for this one. In the 6-game stretch, it's been tough, but what has been the focal point in practice to kind of regroup, get your minds right, and get ready for Valley Play, which is starting up here crazily
At the
fast?
end of the month. I
Yeah.
know. No, you're absolutely right. I think the biggest focus is just continuing to get better every single day. And really what that comes down to is the details. And so what we've been able to do in this stretch, as we returned home from San Juan, we've had a substantial amount of practice time, about 7 days, to be able to get better, to enhance some of the things that we've been able to do and that we've implemented, and just a refresher offensively, defensively, to kind of get back. I don't know, whenever, anytime anybody says the word grind, but it's just that's where, that's the best part of all of it, is just to kind of get back to the grind of it, and just really put our work in, and then be able to watch that. We'll be able to showcase that tonight.
Some positives during this stretch, though, has been the play from Katie Dinenbier, which has been incredible. I mean, she scored 40 against Iowa, 39 against Iowa State, averaging 20 points. And throughout your time with Drake, you've had some great players come through the Knapp Center. You have Caitlin Ingle, you have Hintner, and just through your time at Drake, where do you rank that stretch from Dinenbier in just terms of greatness that you
Yeah.
experienced and watched?
Yeah, I mean, fascinating question, because you've watched Caitlin Ingle make game winners, at the conference tournament, and in overtime, and you've watched, Becca Hittner be a part of 42-0, I mean, so there's so many stretches in there. It's so many phenomenal players, which I think is what's really, really special about Drake. And I think Katie's put her stamp on things. I think what's really, really amazing is that she is adored and loved by her teammates. And so were those previous players that you're talking about. But I think what's amazing is when you have that superstar status and everybody else is, more excited for the fact that Katie scored 40 and 39 than really what she is. She ultimately is just, she wants to make sure that our program is doing what we need to do to be able to win basketball games. And so she's a very, very special player, surrounded by some extremely other special players. So it's just been a joy to be able to watch her maturity and her game and just everything evolve with what she's been able to do.
So as a fan, there's not much I can critique Katie on, but as the coach, what are some things? I mean, right now a lot of people are giving her praise, but as the coach, what do you see on film that you want to see her excel at?
Yeah, I think that the amazing thing with Katie is really where she has evolved from really her freshman year to now is she's really found her voice with the team. So I would say, that's one of the things that we always talk about is our communication level. And so I think, from Katie's standpoint, just continuing to up that, to continue to make sure that everybody, the five players that are on the floor at the given time, always know what they're doing. And then everyone else on the bench, like she's just has to be, masterful at her communication. But, I mean, if you're going to nitpick, I'd like to see Katie try to find her way to be able to score, like in different ways, like coming off on ball screens. I think she's really added some different things to her bag. Like she's shooting behind on ball screens. She's able to navigate and figure out downhill. She's finishing at the rim. She's getting other people involved. So that's one of the situations where any given night she's doing what our team needs, whether that's to score 40 or whether that's to dish out 12 assists. So, not much to complain about by any stretch. One of the things I always, every single time when she goes up for a layup and she doesn't happen to stay on her feet, I would say the one thing that she and I are always kind of like maybe don't see eye to eye on is I always will say to her, you can stay on your feet. And she will look at me when she goes to the free throw line and she'll be like, yes, okay, stay on your feet. So that might be just the one critique, I guess, that she and I might have, that we kind of, go back and forth about. But beyond that, she's just been a joy along with the other players on our team to be able to coach.
Yeah, because the other player I want to mention who's been dominating in both the defensive side and offensive side is Anna Miller. Just what have you seen from her in practice that has just grown her confidence to get her to the point where she is now?
Yeah. Well, it's it all goes back to really how much time she's been here. The amazing thing is having Katie Dennebeer, having Anna Miller, having Ashley Iams, Courtney Becker. These are Courtney Becker, this is her fifth year being at Drake. Everybody else, this is their fourth year. So being able to have that consistency of people staying loyal to the institution that they began at, I think is, I mean, I hold that in such high regard for those women. But with Anna Miller, I think what she would definitely say that she could finish a little bit better around the rim. But what I think what you've seen is just the versatility of how she's being played, of trying to read what defenders are giving her, whether that's the hook shot, whether that's the up and under. Now she's putting it on the floor a little bit more, with a little bit more confidence. And so, defensively, we don't say much. Anna just figures out a way to be able to kind of be our rim protector. um, and she does a great job at it. So, but defensively, she's awesome to have on the floor. I think she's very, very vocal. And offensively, she does a really, really great job of really scoring on the interior of her team finding her, and then obviously trailing and hitting those threes.
So we've talked about the veterans on the team, but you have some freshmen, some transfers that came on to Drake. How have they been able to adjust? And have you been, I don't want to say surprised because you don't want to be surprised by these players adjusting well. There's a reason you went out and recruited them. But just what have they done well that has maybe impressed you?
Yeah, I mean, great question. And I think, every single player that steps, into our program, you always kind of wonder when like the light bulbs will go on and when they really, really transition to be able to get it. And I would say, beginning with Abby Alsma, the transfer from Illinois State, she's already played 2 years of high level of collegiate basketball. So obviously Abby in a practice arena does really, really great. She understands the intensity, understands the communication that it takes. Abby's thing is just really beginning to understand exactly what we do offensively and defensively. And I think that I think she's really, really beginning to come into her own. The more experience that she gets each and every game, you kind of see different things, different layers of her understanding really being unlocked. As far as our freshmen, I think every single day I am completely like, there are eye-opening moments where, I just see so much potential in that class. And as you can see, they've really all played and they've all had minutes, and Grace found herself started in the starting lineup, and we made some adjustments, like you said, kind of Justin, when we went through that stretch, of just trying something completely different, because at that moment, you just really want to switch things up. It's not necessarily because of one person not doing something or somebody doing something else, but Grace has just a phenomenal ability to be able to score, and she is so fast. Peyton McCabe has probably one of the highest basketball IQs that I've that I've seen, especially in a freshman, you know, and Maggie Taylor is just like I said, beginning to unlock what it is that she's going to be able to add to our team. And so just with her interior presence, both offensively and defensively, I'm really, really excited for this group.
How much are you able to go out and start recruiting throughout the season? Like, is that something always on your mind? And with the changing landscape and just college athletics as a whole, how much of that throughout a season puts pressure on you as a head coach?
Yeah, great question. So you know, surrounded by a phenomenal coaching staff, where you know, everybody really puts their recruiting hat on, you know, definitely on a daily basis, whether that's going to high school games, whether that's venturing out, you know, to be able to go support different, you know, different states and different games and whatever else. But it's always on your mind. It is because you know, you ultimately, it's about really continuing to get better. And so we take it very, very seriously, I think, of trying to attract the right people with the right skill set, but also the right character, the right academic profile. All of those things have to be considered as you're, you know, really wanting to ask somebody to come and join your program, because it's an amazing ask, I think. We've got a great thing going, and you just want to make sure that you get it right.
So you have, you have to prep for games, you have practices, you're trying to recruit. Do you ever get the opportunity to just be a basketball fan anymore? Like last night, you had a great in-state game with Iowa and Iowa State. Did you get to watch that at all, or is it just always with the projector, watching film?
Um, well, heck yes. Love to be a fan. And every single night, you know, my own family might complain just a touch, especially with all these Christmas and holiday movies and such on, that, you know, not the most joy filled around here. It's all about basketball. So each and every afternoon, evening, whenever it is, it's always about turning on games and watching I went to a high school game the other night and picked up a warm-up drill from a high school boys team. You know, like you're always learning. There's always things that, you know, that maybe you haven't thought of or that could potentially work for your team. So I think there's always opportunity. But yes, love to be a fan. You know, would love to someday. I think maybe on my bucket list is to attend one of those San Juan tournaments just as a fan, because you know, it's probably just a little bit different your downtime than what it is as a coach. So but no, definitely watch a lot of basketball. We got a lot of great things going on in our own state here in Iowa collegiately.
Well, you have you and I, Maya McDermott, so fun to watch. They played really well earlier this week. And then Iowa and Iowa State have just been so impressive throughout the season too. And then you have Drake. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better time in women's basketball in the state of Iowa.
You're absolutely right. You know, and I think we can just continue to tell these stories, you know, talk about these players because there's so many special ones out there, and they've really made their imprint really upon our state. And when you're talking about women's basketball as well.
Okay, it's a cliche question, but you've mentioned holiday movies. What's your favorite holiday movie? Do you
Ooh, great question. Great question. I don't know that I have a favorite by any means. But I love the classics. I love like Home Alone, Santa Claus, The Grinch, Elf. I mean, you got to throw that one in
have?
there. I mean, all of them. I mean, we just have them on repeat here.
Are you a person that believes Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie or is a Christmas movie?
No, I would definitely say it is a Christmas movie. And
Yes.
growing up,
That's what I'm
yeah,
talking about. That's
yes,
my
you know,
favorite.
I grew up with two older brothers, so I think that we had, whether it was Die Hard 1, 2, 3, all of them. Like, you know, when they had the marathons going on, they were always on at our house. So even as a youngster, got used to watching Die Hard during the holidays.
Back to basketball. How would you grade Drake's non-conference schedule and season to this point right now?
Yeah. You know, as far as like a grading, you know, I think I always think hindsight's always 2020, and you can look back and say we probably should have scheduled differently. And I don't, you know, I don't necessarily agree with that by any stretch. I think we can continue to learn things as we've really come through. But man, I'm really, really happy it's December, because we're going to make December our month. And mainly because that stretch in November it was a great opportunity for us. And I do think as we're looking in the rearview mirror, I think it's exactly what we needed to then be able to continue to make progress moving forward. Because, you know, as you mentioned, Missouri Valley Conference play is right around the corner. And these sorts of games, I think, are what have prepared us really to step into those games and feel extremely, extremely confident.
Well, definitely, because when I was researching, I saw that it was like one of the toughest stretches Drake women's basketball has had since 2020, or yeah, it was like 2020, 2021. And then it said, but they finished 18-4 in Missouri Valley Conference play. It's like, well, yeah, because you play those tough opponents. You're still working out some kinks and you're shaking off a little bit of rust early in the year. So definitely those games prepare you for the conference season.
No, they definitely do. And I think individual players have taken the things away that they need to take away. And I think collectively as a coaching staff, I think we continue to take away the things that we need to take from those things to then be able to, enhance our skills in those regards and just be able to get better.
Well, just again, want to reiterate thank you so much to Coach Allison Pohlman for being able to do this. She's been great throughout my time as a student when I worked at iHeart and now. So means everything. And everyone at Drake has been so willing to help me get these interviews and really set me up for success. So it means a lot. So moving forward, though, want to give a few thoughts on the Drake men. So the Drake men tip off tonight at 7:30 against St. Ambrose, a team that they played in 2022. I remember calling that as a student broadcaster. They dominated that game. I honestly see it maybe not being as big of a victory. It was like 124 to 40 something in 2022. Don't know if it'll be that big because that Drake offense in 2022 was really special. But what Ben McCollum has done has also been really special. 8-0 for only the third time ever in Drake school history. They bring in all these transfers. Ben McCollum comes from Division II, brings some players with them, including Bennett Sturts, who is just unreal. And just for a second, going to go through some of the numbers that Bennett Sturts has. So Sturts ties a career high against Valpo earlier last week. 29 points, very efficient from the field, 9 of 15, 3 of 6 from beyond the arc. He's second in the Valley in steals, second in points per game, second at Drake in rebounds, and leads the Valley in assists. He just does everything you would want as a star point guard. And on defense, man, you look at Bennett Sturts, and he doesn't look very physically big. He doesn't look super ripped or strong. He kind of looks like a skinny, small guard, but he goes out there and is as physical as anybody. He reminds me so much of Aaron Kraft with Ohio State, and he's fearless. He'll put his body in front of anyone, take a charge, be willing to take a charge. The entire Drake team. It'd be interesting to talk to Ben McCollum about, is that something they practice? Because I feel like everyone on the Drake men's basketball team is just willing to take a charge. Is that just something that all those players are just gifted at, or is that something Ben McCollum stresses? Maybe I might ask him that question tonight after the game. But just what this Drake team has done, what Bennett Sturts is able to do, has been really special. That being said, yes, they're 8-0, and that's fantastic. But man, there's some things that really need to clean up, and I'm excited to see the transition. You play Valpo, which is always a difficult place to play. We've seen it happen with, the DeVries era. When they were 18-0, they lost at Valpo. That was their first loss of the year. And it's always a grind to play Valpo. So not holding anything against it, but man, it just seemed like a lot of mistakes that you see earlier in the year that you don't see, in the start of conference play towards the beginning of December. You usually don't see these kind of mistakes. 13 turnovers versus Valparaiso, including a bunch of shot clock violations. And this is something that could happen with this Drake offense because they like playing deep into that shot clock. We saw it in the Charleston Classic where, man, they slowed down defenses in opposing teams because they will chew into that shot clock. And when it works, it's a thing of beauty. But man, Valpo was not fazed by it by any stretch, and Drake really struggled to get that ball off in time. A lot of shot clock violations. I'm excited to see how Ben McCollum is able to adjust that and fix that up for tonight's game where Drake takes on St. Ambrose at 7:30. I'm also excited to see the growth of Abreu, who is what a lot of Drake fans thought Northweather would play like, but at a stronger level. He is more confident when he shoots the ball. He's physical in the paint. He really stretches the floor for the offense for the Drake Bulldogs, and it fits perfectly with Ben McCollum's style, where they like to have that motion along the three-point line to help chew into that shot clock. So excited to see his growth. Mascari, want to see him just get more consistent, because when he's on, he is one of my favorite players to watch. But against Valpo, he didn't score his first point. He didn't make his first basket until midway through the second half. It was tough to watch. The starters just really need to help Bennett Sturts, who's been consistent all year round. The starters with Valpo only put up a total of 21. Like we said, Sturts tied a career high with 29. Banks had some help on the bench for the Drake Bulldogs, so role players will have to step up throughout the season as well. All that being said, I feel very confident Drake improves to 9-0 tonight after a good victory versus St. Ambrose, a team that is 6-2. Grant Mason is a good player for the St. Ambrose team, 53% from the field, averaging about 14 points a game. But overall, I think Drake actually has the depth and a lot more stronger players offensively and especially defensively. I think this is the best defensive team I've seen from a Drake Bulldog team in a long time, because with DeVries, there were some really strong defenders. Roman Pym was always great. DJ Wilkins was fantastic on defense. And Brody grew into his defense. I mean, I think that first year that Drake won the Missouri Valley Conference Championship was his real start to being that strong defender, because last year he really proved himself as a strong big man and a force in the paint. But until that point, yeah, there were some great defenders on the team, but overall, I don't think the team their identity was built through DeVries and the offense, and then defense came second. This year, it feels McCollum has a nice balance. The defense is really strong. It has helped Drake become one of the 8 teams left unbeaten to this point. So it is exciting to watch. I'm really enjoying, as a Drake fan, seeing this for, like I said, I haven't seen a defensive team out of Drake like this in a long time. So I think that leads them to success. And Mascari will find his rhythm. The offense will start to find a rhythm and clean up some of those turnovers. Drake will be just fine. Moving forward, want to give a few quick thoughts on the Cy-Hawk game tonight. In Carver Hawkeye, the women took down Iowa State last night, in which surprised me, maybe not surprised other people, because what Coach Jensen has been able to do with Iowa is outstanding. I love Jensen. One, great interview, seems like a great person, and when Brody was actually going through some of his issues, in terms of getting too many fouls when he first came to Drake, I remember as a joke saying on the radio, man, get Jensen, because she can coach the big men. And she has done a fantastic job in her first year at head coach. No signs of regressing from this Hawkeye team. And that doesn't surprise me. But what has surprised me is the Iowa State just not looking as dominant as I thought they would. Now, this is a team, like I mentioned with Coach Pohlman, you have these early kind of step backs and you have these lulls throughout the early part of the season, but that helps you get better towards conference play, which the Big 12 will be a beast for the Iowa State Cyclones. But I'm just shocked. It looks as of right now that the Cyclones are in a way too one-dimensional. Addie Brown played really good early on, but then kind of fell off in the second half. And you get Crooks the ball a lot, but Iowa didn't seem fazed by it. They just kept triple teaming her, and they were allowed to do it because no one else for Iowa State could really shoot threes. So for the Iowa State women, that surprised me last night. I think Fenley will definitely have them watching film, will get it figured out, and Iowa State will be set up just fine throughout the rest of the season. I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about, but I think they will be just fine. Now for the men. Iowa State men ranked 3rd in the country, ties a school record for the highest they've ever been ranked, and they're doing all of this with Taman Lipsey still being banged up. He is not an offensive powerhouse that many hoped and thought he would be as of right now, because he's still dealing with some injuries. Still really strong on defense, still does a good job of protecting the ball on offense. But he is getting all the help he could get. Four guys, I apologize, for Drake for Iowa State in double figures for the season. And biggest one is Keyshawn Gilbert. That guy is something else. It epitomizes his image when you see him with the bloody nose against Marquette, wearing a different jersey because he got blood on number 10. He has been incredible throughout the month of November, putting up 24 plus points in multiple outings, doing it against tough opponents. He did it against now the number 2 team in Auburn, the only team Iowa State has lost by, and it came off of a offensive rebound putback. And against Marquette, who's a top 10 team, we've seen how good they can be. Keyshawn Gilbert is taking this year to a different level. Last year, we saw his potential, but sometimes look too out of control, try to make too much happen. Now this year, he is under control and just dominating other teams. And I know Iowa, when I was watching that Michigan game, when their offense clicks, they can be dangerous. It's just a typical Fran McCaffrey team where a lot of inconsistencies. So that worries me. That's a concern heading into tonight, because with a Otzelberger defense that Iowa State has, which I think their defense has actually taken a step down from last year, because last year that defense was fantastic. This year the defense is still really, really strong, but I think their offense got stronger with more pieces being added onto there. And I just see Iowa State coming into Carver, and maybe it's close in the first half and early part of the second half. I think Iowa State actually finishes out, and it be not a blowout, but I think they win comfortably versus the Hawkeyes tonight, just because of the inconsistencies and the consistent dominance that Iowa State has from Gilbert and their other star players. So that's my thoughts on the Cy-Hawk game. Again, thank you so much to Allison Pohlman for joining me earlier this morning. And I will be at the Knapp Center tonight for both games. So make sure you follow me at Justin_C Miller for all the coaches' updates, interviews, some highlights from players. And yeah, it'll be a fun night to get back into the groove of things covering the Drake Bulldogs. I feel like I'm back home, honestly. Feel like I'm back home covering the Drake Bulldogs. So thank you again so much. Tomorrow we will go through recapping both Drake and Iowa State and Iowa, while also kind of giving a nice preview for the weekend, maybe in the NFL slate as well. So thank you all so much. Thank you to Coach Pohlman and everyone at Drake, and make sure to follow along for any type of highlights and post-game interviews.